They made me serve cake in the kitchen, I whispered, my voice cracking as I stood frozen, pie plate in hand, staring at the phone screen. My son, Daniel Harper, had just hung up, his words still burning in my ears. Mom, we're hosting Thanksgiving at our place. You're on desserts day in the kitchen. Okay, we'll handle the rest. I'm Ellen Harper, 72 years old, a retired costume designer who once crafted dazzling gowns for our town's theater, each stitch a testament to my passion. I'd poured my heart into this family, funding Daniel's dreams, sewing costumes for my grandkids, planning every Memorial Day barbecue. Yet now, relegated to the kitchen like a servant, the betrayal cut deeper than I could bear. The call came just as I was pulling a pecan pie from the oven, its warm scent filling my modest farmhouse in the quiet countryside outside our small American town. Thanksgiving was my domain, a tradition I'd upheld for decades, tables groaning with my recipes, laughter echoing under fairy lights I'd strung myself. I'd designed the table settings, hand-stitched napkins, even crafted Sophie's first stage dress for her school play. But Daniel's voice was cold, dismissive, as if my years of effort were irrelevant. I set the pie down, my hands trembling, and glanced at a faded Memorial Day photo on the counter. Daniel, Emily, and the grandkids, smiling under a canopy of stars and stripes. That moment felt like a lie now. I sank into a chair, my mind racing. How had it come to this? I opened the Cozy app on my phone, a tool Sophie had taught me to manage our family's chaotic schedules. I'd always been the one to coordinate our gatherings, from 4th of July picnics to Christmas dinners, ensuring every detail was perfect. But as I scrolled to the Thanksgiving event, my breath caught. My name was gone, erased from the host field. In its place was Lauren Harper, my daughter-in-law, with a note from Daniel. Mom's too old to manage this now. Lauren's got it covered. Too old. The words hit like a slap, a public declaration in our family's digital calendar that I was obsolete. My chest tightened, not from age but from the sting of being discarded. I replayed Daniel's call in my mind. His tone wasn't just casual, it was calculated, as if he'd rehearsed it. I thought of Lauren's smug smile at our last family dinner, her new diamond earrings glinting as she praised her own modern holiday ideas. My daughter, Emily Carter, had sat silently, her eyes fixed on her plate, avoiding mine. I'd always trusted them, believed in the promises they made after my husband's death. Mom, we'll always take care of you. But this wasn't care. This was erasure. I stood, pacing the linoleum floor, my fingers brushing the counter where Sophie's stage dress once lay during fittings. That dress, a cascade of sapphire tulle, had been my gift to her for her first theater performance, symbol of my love and talent. I'd spent weeks on it, sewing late into the night, my hands steady despite the years. Now, it was stored at Daniel's house, forgotten like me. The thought ignited something fierce inside. I wasn't just a grandmother, baking pies. I was Ellen Harper, the woman who'd made audiences gasp with my designs. They couldn't take that from me. I opened Cozy again, my heart pounding as I dug deeper. The app's history showed Daniel had edited the Thanksgiving event weeks ago, removing my name without a word. But there was more. A notification popped up for a family meeting I hadn't been invited to, scheduled at Daniel's suburban home. The description read, "Planning our new family legacy." New legacy. My legacy was this family's backbone, my savings for Daniel's startup, my costumes for Sophie's plays, my evenings planning every holiday. Were they rewriting it all? I grabbed my phone and called Susan Miller, my neighbor and a retired auditor who'd become my confidant since my husband's passing. "Susan, they've erased me," I said, my voice shaking as I explained the Cozy discovery. She listened, her calm tone grounding me. "Ellen, this isn't just about Thanksgiving. Check deeper. People don't hide things unless there's something to find." Her words sparked a fire. I wasn't tech-savvy, but I wasn't helpless either. Sophie had taught me enough to navigate apps, and I'd sold costume sketches online through PayPal for years. I could figure this out. I opened Google Photos, a tool Susan had shown me to store family memories. I'd uploaded countless pictures, carving the turkey, stringing lights for Memorial Day, teaching Sophie to sew. But as I scrolled, my stomach dropped. Photos of me were missing, replaced with new ones of Lauren hosting those same events. Captions credited her, Lauren's unforgettable Thanksgiving spread. My hands shook. This wasn't just about a holiday. They were erasing my life's work, my love, my sacrifices. I walked to my sewing room, where I kept remnants of my theater days fabric swatches, old sketches, a photo of Sophie in her dress, beaming on stage. I touched the frame, my fingers lingering on the sapphire tool. That dress was more than fabric. It was my heart, given freely to my family. Now, they were throwing it away. I remembered Lauren's voice at the last family dinner. "Ellen, your pies are legendary. Stick to baking." The condescension burned, reducing my career to a kitchen chore. Emily's silence had hurt even more. She'd always been my ally, or so I thought. I sat at my sewing table, the weight of betrayal pressing down. But then, an idea struck. I pulled out an envelope, my revised trust documents, updated last month to protect my rental house, my last financial security. I'd meant to discuss it with Daniel and Emily, but now it felt like a weapon. I slipped it under a dessert plate, the paper crinkling softly. If they thought I'd stay silent, they were wrong. I wasn't just a grandmother. I was a woman who'd built stages, families, legacies, and I'd fight for mine. That night I lay awake, the Memorial Day photo haunting me. In it, Daniel had his arm around me, Emily was laughing, Sophie was twirling in her dress. It felt like another life. But as I stared at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "I'm not just a pie maker, I'm the heart of this family." The words anchored me, a vow to reclaim what was mine. I didn't know what Daniel and Lauren were planning, but I'd find out, and when I did, they'd see I wasn't too old to fight. I thought of my next move. Susan's words echoed, "Check deeper." Tomorrow, I'd visit the community center, use their computer to dig into Cozy's logs, maybe even Google Photos, edit history. I'd learned enough from Sophie to navigate those apps, and my years designing costumes had taught me precision, patience. If Daniel thought he could erase me, he'd underestimated me. I wasn't just baking pies for Thanksgiving. I was preparing for a reckoning. As I drifted to sleep, the envelope under the plate loomed in my mind. It wasn't just paper, it was my defiance, my promise to myself. They could try to push me aside, but I'd slip the truth under their noses. And when the time came, they'd choke on it. What would you do if your own children erased you from your family's story? Lauren's voice pierced the hum of the town's autumn craft fair. Sharp and smug as she flipped through a photo album at a booth draped in checkered cloth. "Our family's holidays are the talk of the town now," she declared, her manicured nails pointing to a picture as neighbors leaned in, nodding. Last 4th of July, my vision, my execution. Hidden behind a stall, piled with handmade quilts, I gripped a paper cup of cider, the warmth doing nothing to ease the chill in my chest. I'd come to the fair to clear my head after Daniel's call last night, his cold order to stay in the kitchen for Thanksgiving, but Lauren's words stopped me cold. I inched closer, my boots scuffing the gravel path, and peered at the album. My heart lurched. The photos remind me stringing lights for Memorial Day, carving pumpkins with Sophie, setting tables for Christmas dinners I'd planned for decades. But Lauren's captions claimed it all. Lauren's unforgettable 4th of July bash. My cider cup crumpled in my fist. They weren't just erasing me from Thanksgiving. They were rewriting my life, stealing every moment I'd poured my heart into. I slipped behind a row of apple crates, my pulse hammering. Last night, I'd found Daniel's edit on the Cozy app, stripping me from my role as Thanksgiving host and branding me to old Bafta. This was bolder, more public. I'd built this family's traditions, funding Daniel's dreams, sewing Sophie's stage costumes, hosting every holiday with love. Now, Lauren was parading my work as hers, and the neighbors bought it, their smiles oblivious to the lie. I wanted to storm over, snatch the album, but I held back. Anger wouldn't win this. I needed evidence, a strategy. I pulled out my phone and opened Google Photos, the app Susan Miller had shown me to store family memories. I'd spent years uploading pictures of me laughing with Sophie at Easter egg hunts, teaching her to thread a needle, decorating for Thanksgiving. But as I scrolled, my throat tightened. Dozens of my photos were gone, replaced with shots of Lauren at those same events. Captions credited her, Lauren's iconic Christmas spread. My fingers shook as I checked the activity log. Daniel's account had made the changes, deleting my photos over months, each edit a deliberate cut to my legacy. I saved screenshots, my jaw clenched. This was no accident, it was a campaign. I left the fair, the chatter fading as I reached my car. My farmhouse, a quiet haven in the countryside, was a short drive away, Inside, I sank onto the couch, phone still in hand. Susan's words from last night rang clear. Check deeper. I navigated Google Photos again, my eyes scanning the edit history. Timestamps showed Daniel's deletions started right after I'd questioned Lauren's modern holiday plans at our last dinner. I remembered her smirk. Ellen, stick to baking. Your pies are legendary. The condescension had stung, reducing my decades of costume design to a kitchen chore. Emily's silence had hurt where she'd always promised to honor me. I stood, pacing the worn floorboards, my mind racing. I opened my laptop, an old model Sophie had set up for me, and logged into PayPal. I'd sold costume sketches online for years, using the earnings to fund family gatherings. A recent transaction caught my eye: $700 sent to Lauren, labeled holiday decor. The account was linked to a family fund I'd created after my husband's death, meant for shared expenses like Sophie's school trips. Daniel had access, but I hadn't approved this. My stomach twisted. Were they using my money to fuel their lies? I texted Susan, my voice replaced by steady taps on the screen. Found something big. They're erasing my photos, taking my money. Can we meet? She replied instantly. Tomorrow, my place, 10 a.m., bring everything. I nodded to myself, a spark of determination replacing yesterday's shock. I wasn't the helpless widow Daniel assumed. I'd designed costumes that brought down houses. I could unravel his scheme. That afternoon, I drove to the town library, a cozy brick building where I'd once read stories to Sophie. Using a public computer, I dug into Google Photos, shared album settings. Daniel hadn't just deleted my photos, he'd restricted my access, locking me out of new uploads. But I found a backup folder, hidden in the cloud, with my original photos intact. I downloaded them, my movements precise. This was my first weapon, proof of their theft. I emailed the files to Susan, labeling them Family Truth. My heart pounded, not with fear but with resolve. Back home, I sat at my dining table, the lamp casting long shadows. A memory flickered last Easter, Emily avoiding my eyes as Lauren bragged about her holiday plans. I'd thought it was just tension, but now I saw it. They were planning this erasure for months. I opened a drawer, pulling out a small program from Sophie's first play, where my dress had made her shine. To Grandma, my hero, she'd written in crayon. I touched the words, my fingers steady. They could steal my photos, but not my truth. I called Clara Evans, Susan's friend, who'd always praised my theater work. Clara, they're rewriting my life, I said, my voice low but firm. I need your help. She didn't hesitate. Come over after Susan tomorrow. We'll sort this out. Her words anchored me. I wasn't fighting alone, but as I hung up, my phone pinged a cozy notification. A new event, family legacy dinner, hosted by Lauren at Daniel's house. No invite for me. My blood surged. They were building a new legacy on my ruins. I grabbed my purse, where the envelope my revised trust document sat from last night. I'd meant to share it with Daniel and Emily, protecting my rental house, my last financial anchor. Now, it was Mara Shield, a blade. I tucked the program beside it, a reminder of what I'd built. They thought they could erase me, but I was already steps ahead. Tomorrow, I'd meet Susan and Clara, plan my next move. I whispered, they stole my past, but they won't steal my truth. As I turned off the lamp, my phone lit up again. A text from Emily. Mom, can we talk? I didn't mean to hurt you. My finger hovered over the reply button, but I set the phone down. Her words felt hollow after her silence. The real blow came in a second notification of Google Photos. Alert, a new album, Harper Family Future, shared by Daniel, filled with Lauren's photos, none of mine, but one image stopped me cold. Sophie in her stage dress, captioned Lauren's gift to Sophie. My dress, my love, claimed as hers. I stared, my resolve hardening to steel. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. The screen door of Susan Miller's porch swung shut with a creak, her kitchen table already cluttered with coffee mugs and a laptop as she waved me in. Show me what you've got, she said, her retired auditor's eyes sharp behind bifocals. I set my phone down. The Google Photos, screenshots, glowing proof of Daniel's deletions, Lauren's stolen captions. Last night's discovery at the craft fair still churned in my gut, but Susan's no-nonsense tone pulled me from anger to focus. I wasn't just a grandmother scorned. I was a woman who'd crafted costumes that stole breaths, and I'd stitched together their lies just as carefully. Susan scrolled through the screenshots, her lips pursed. This is deliberate, Ellen. They're rewriting your life. I nodded, my fingers brushing the tile tracker in my pocket, a gift from Clara Evans to find misplaced keys. I'd attached it to Sophie's old stage dress, stored in a box at Daniel's house, after noticing it missing last week. Check this, I said, opening the tile app. The tracker's signal pinged it at Daniel's suburban home, but at Craig Thompson's place across town. My pulse quickened. Why was my dress, my legacy, at Daniel's old friend's house? Susan leaned back, her coffee untouched. Craig's involved. That's no coincidence. I'd met Craig years ago at Daniel's college graduation. A slick talker who'd always seemed too eager to please. Susan tapped the laptop, pulling up a property records site. Let's see if there's more. I hesitated, then handed her my PayPal login from Part 2's Discovery. $700 siphoned to Lauren for holiday decor. Susan's fingers flew, cross-referencing transactions. Look, she said, pointing to a $2,000 transfer to Craig, labeled consulting. My rental house, my only financial security, flashed in my mind. Were they planning to take it? I drove to the town park that afternoon, a quiet green space dotted with picnic benches, to clear my head. The air smelled of cut grass and distant barbecue smoke, a faint echo of Memorial Day gatherings I'd once hosted. Sitting on a bench, I opened the tile app again. The signal held steady at Craig's address. I texted Clara. Dress is at Craig's. Something's wrong. Her reply was swift. Meet me at my place tonight. Bring Susan. I pocketed the phone, my resolve hardening. I wasn't chasing shadows, I was hunting truth. That evening, Clara's cozy living room glowed with lamplight, her nursing instincts evident as she poured tea and listened. I explained the tile tracker, the dress, the PayPal transfers. This dress, I said, my voice steady, was for Sophie's first play. It's me, my work. They're hiding it. Clara's eyes softened, but Susan cut in. Ellen, this smells like a bigger plan. Craig's no stranger to shady deals. She'd audited enough to know. I pulled out a folded lease agreement for my rental house, kept in my purse since updating my trust. If they're after this, they'll regret it, I said, my tone cold. Not broken. Clara suggested I visit Daniel's house, pretext of delivering holiday recipes to Snoop. I agreed, my mind already mapping the layout of his sprawling suburban home. The next morning, I arrived with a stack of handwritten pie recipes, my smile practiced. Lauren greeted me at the door, her perfume sharp, her smile tighter than usual. Ellen, so sweet of you to drop these off, she said, ushering me to the kitchen. Daniel was out, she claimed, but I caught a glimpse of his briefcase by the stairs. My fingers itched for the tile tracker, but I played along, chatting about crusts while scanning the room. As Lauren turned to answer a phone call, I slipped into the hallway, my steps silent on the hardwood. The tile app buzzed still at Craig's, but near the briefcase, I spotted a folder labeled Property Docs. Heart pounding, I flipped it open. Inside was a draft petition, signed by Daniel and Craig, to declare me incapacitated for managing my rental house. A note in Daniel's scrawl read, Mom's too frail to handle assets, we'll take over. My blood ran cold. They weren't just stealing my past, they were plotting to strip my independence. I snapped photos of the petition with my phone, my hands steady despite the fury boiling inside. Back in the kitchen, Lauren was still on her call, laughing about new family traditions. I forced a smile, handed her the recipes, and left. In my car, I sent the photos to Susan and Clara, my message brief. They're after my house. We need a plan. Susan replied, meet at the library tomorrow. Tom Bradley can help. Tom, a lawyer friend, could turn this evidence into leverage. That night, I sat at my farmhouse kitchen table, the lease agreement spread before me. I'd fought for that house after my husband's death, a symbol of my resilience. Now, Daniel wanted to paint me as helpless to seize it. I remembered his college years, how I'd sold sketches to pay his tuition, how he'd promised to make me proud. The memory stung, but I pushed it aside. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was strategizing. I opened a notebook, jotting down my next steps. Meet Tom. Secure the house. Dig into Craig's role. Susan had mentioned Craig's consulting work sounded like a cover. I checked PayPal again, finding another transfer $1,500 to Craig, dated yesterday. My jaw tightened. They were moving fast. I texted Sophie, my granddaughter, on a whim. Ever hear Grandpa talk about Craig? Her reply was vague. He's Dad's friend, kinda pushy. It wasn't much, but it was a thread to pull. The next morning, I drove to the library, a squat building with ivy-covered walls, to meet Susan and Clara. Susan had printed the petition photos, her face grim. "This is fraud, Ellen. They're claiming you're unfit to control your own life." Clara handed me a flyer from the town's theater, announcing a new exhibit of local artists. My name wasn't listed, despite my decades of costume designs. "Daniel's been talking to the theater board," Clara said. "He wants them to focus on new talent." My chest tightened, but my voice was ice. "They'll learn who built this family's heart." I slipped the flyer into my purse, next to the lease agreement. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a reminder of my fight. As we planned with Tom, I felt a shift, not to sorrow, but to precision. I'd once measured fabric to the millimeter, 4 perfect gowns. Now, I'd measure every move to reclaim my life. I whispered to myself, "They think I'm frail, but I'm their reckoning." As I left the library, my phone buzzed a voicemail from an unknown number. I played it, and Craig's voice crackled through. "Ellen, stop poking around. You don't want trouble before Thanksgiving." My heart skipped, not from fear but from clarity. He knew I was onto them. The message wasn't a warning, it was a mistake, a crack in their armor. I saved it, my fingers steady. They'd underestimated me, and now I had their voice. The front door of Daniel's house clicked shut behind me, the hum of Lauren's vacuum cleaner masking my steps as I clutched a tray of pumpkin muffins. I'd arrived unannounced, claiming I'd baked too many for the church sale, but my real purpose was darker. After finding the petition at Daniel's plan to declare me incapacitated and seize my rental house, I needed more than screenshots and tile tracker pings. I needed something tangible, something to prove they weren't just erasing my past but burying my heart. The muffins were my alibi. The search was my mission. Lauren's voice drifted from the living room, sharp and distracted as she barked into her phone. "No, the caterer's set for the legacy dinner. It's my show now." I set the tray on the kitchen island, my eyes scanning the open-plan space marble counters. Framed photos of Lauren's holidays, none of mine. The petition's words burned in my memory. "Moms too frail." Frail. I'd sewn costumes that outshone Broadway, funded Daniel's dreams, built this family's soul. They'd learn I was anything but weak. I moved silently down the hall, past Sophie's old bedroom, toward the guest room where Daniel stored boxes from my old house. My tile tracker had pinged Sophie's stage dress at Craig's, but I suspected more was hidden here. The guest room smelled of cedar, its closets stacked with labeled bin staxes, photos, keepsakes. My fingers brushed a box marked "Family Misc," and I knelt, my knees creaking but my resolve iron. I lifted the lid, revealing a jumble of old cards, school projects, and fabric scraps. Then, at the bottom, I saw a folded paper, yellowed with age, tucked inside a velvet pouch. My breath caught as I opened it. Sophie's handwriting, loopy and childlike, stared back. "Grandma, your dress made me feel like a star. Thank you forever. Love, Sophie, age 8. My chest tightened, not with pain but with a fierce clarity. I'd spent weeks on that dress, stitching sapphire tulle late into the night, my hand steady despite the years. Sophie had worn it for her first play, her smile brighter than the spotlight. Daniel had hidden this letter, ensuring my love, my work, was forgotten. This wasn't just neglect, it was theft of my bond with Sophie. I snapped a photo of the letter, my phone's flash muted, and slipped it back into the pouch. My eyes darted to the door, Lauren's vacuum still droning. I dug deeper, finding a program from Sophie's play, my name listed as costume designer. Beside it, a sticky note in Daniel's scrawl. "Keep this out of sight. Mom's ego doesn't need stroking." My jaw clenched. They weren't just hiding my contributions, they were ashamed of them. I pocketed the program, a small act of defiance, and closed the box. As I stood, a floorboard creaked, and Lauren's voice cut through. "Ellen, where'd you go?" My heart raced, but I smoothed my expression and stepped into the hall, holding a stray photo frame I'd grabbed as cover. "Just admiring Sophie's pictures," I said, my voice calm, practiced. Lauren's eyes narrowed, her phone still in hand. "You shouldn't wander," she said, her smile thin. "The muffins are sweet, but we're fine here." I nodded, playing the doting grandma, and left, the program burning against my thigh. In my car, I sent the letter's photo to Susan and Clara, my message curt, "Found Sophie's note. They hid it. More to come." Susan replied, "That's dynamite, Ellen. Meet Tom tomorrow. He'll make this hurt them." Clara added, "You're unstoppable." Their words fueled me, not with rage but with precision. I wasn't the betrayed mother anymore. I was a strategist, threading their lies into a noose. That evening, I sat at my farmhouse desk. The program opened before me. Its faded print listed every cast member, every crew role, my name in bold. I'd been proud, not for fame but for Sophie's joy. Now, Daniel wanted that joy erased. I opened my laptop and emailed the theater board, attaching the program and a brief note, interested in showcasing local history. I have more. If Daniel thought he could bury my legacy, I'd unearth it publicly. I drove to the town's coffee shop the next morning, a cozy spot with mismatched mugs and chalkboard menus, to meet Susan. The aroma of espresso grounded me as I showed her the program. "They're not just after your house," she said, her voice low. "They're erasing your mark on this town." I nodded, my fingers tracing the program's edge. "Then I'll remind everyone who I am," I said, my tone not bitter but resolute. Susan grinned. "Tom's ready to file a fraud claim. This letter's your ace." As we planned, I checked my phone PayPal again. Another transfer, $1,000 to Craig, labeled project fees. My rental house loomed in my mind, its modest rent my lifeline. I forwarded the transaction to Susan, who frowned. "Craig's dirty, Ellen. I'll dig into his accounts." I leaned back, my mind racing. The petition, the letter, the transfers, they were pieces of a larger scheme. I needed to know Craig's role, and fast. That afternoon, I walked to the community center, a low brick building where I'd once taught sewing classes. Using their computer, I searched Craig's name online, finding a business listing for Thompson Consulting. Its website was vague, touting asset management, but a cached page mentioned estate planning. My stomach twisted. Were they using Craig to justify their incapacitated claim? I printed the page, my hands steady, and emailed it to Susan.backhome. I sat on my porch, the autumn air crisp. A memory flickered. Sophie running to me after her play, clutching that letter, her eyes bright. "You're my hero, Grandma," she'd said. I'd believed my family saw me that way. Now, I saw only lies. But, as I stood, my phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. "Ellen, we need to talk about your house. It's a burden you shouldn't carry." My grip tightened. They were moving faster, bolder. I replied, my words measured. "Let's discuss at Thanksgiving." But I had no intention of talking. I opened my purse, the envelope, my trust documents still inside, now joined by the program. They weren't just papers, they were my arsenal, I whispered. "They buried my heart, but I'll make it shine again." Thanksgiving was weeks away, but my plan was taking shape. Gather more evidence, lock down my assets, expose their lies. Daniel and Lauren thought they'd won, but I was sowing their downfall, stitch by stitch. As I turned to go inside, my phone rang. Molly. I hesitated, her text from part 2 still raw. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I answered, my voice cool. "Mom," she stammered, "I found something in Daniel's office. It's about you." My heart skipped, not with hope but with suspicion. "What is it?" I asked. Her voice trembled. "A letter to the bank, saying, you're unfit to manage money." I didn't know. I froze, the porch fading around me. Emily's betrayal cut deeper than Daniel's, but her fear hinted at a crack. Could she be an allure, a trap? Emily's voice trembled through the phone, her words rushing out in a hushed panic. "Mom, I found something in Daniel's office. It's about you." I stood in the town's diner, the clatter of plates and coffee machines fading as I pressed the phone closer. Her call from last night, hinting at a letter to the bank, claiming I was unfit, had kept me awake, but this urgency was new. I stepped outside, the crisp autumn air hitting my face, and kept my tone even. "What did you find, Emily?" She hesitated, then whispered, "A video. It's bad." My grip tightened. I wasn't just gathering evidence anymore, I was ready to strike. I drove to Emily's apartment, a small unit on the edge of town, its windows framed with faded curtains. She opened the door, her eyes red, her usual poise replaced by nervous glances. "I didn't know," she said, leading me to her laptop. The screen glowed with a paused video, titled Harper Family Legacy. I hit play, and my stomach churned. It was a polished montage: Thanksgiving dinners, 4th of July barbecues, Sophie's birthdays, but I was nowhere in it. Lauren narrated, her voice smooth. "Our family's future starts with fresh traditions. Every moment I'd created my recipes, my decorations was credited to her. The final frame showed Sophie, smiling, with a caption, "Lauren's vision for our next generation." I leaned back, my hands steady but my mind racing. This wasn't just Daniel erasing my photos or hiding Sophie's letter, as I'd found in the guest room. This was Emily, my daughter, helping them rewrite me out of our family's story. "You made this?" I asked, my voice low, not accusing but piercing. Emily's face crumpled. "Daniel said it was for a family project, to modernize our image. I didn't know they'd cut you out completely." Her excuse hung thin. She'd edited me away, frame by frame, to please her brother. My heart didn't break, it hardened, like fabric starched for a perfect costume. I stood, pacing the small living room, its walls lined with photos of Sophie I'd framed years ago. "You knew what they were doing," I said, my words clipped. "You saw them take my place." Emily sobbed. "He pressured me, Mom." I was scared he'd cut me out too. I stopped, staring at her. I'd raised her, sewn her prom dress, cheered at her graduation. Now, she'd traded my legacy for Daniel's approval. But her fear, real or not, was a crack I could use. "Show me the files," I demanded. She hesitated, then opened a folder on her laptop, revealing raw footage and edit logs. I forwarded them to Susan, my message sharp, "Video proof. They're erasing me entirely." I left Emily's, my purse heavy with the envelope, my trust documents and the theater program from Sophie's play. I drove to the town's bookstore, a quaint shop with creaky floors and shelves of old novels, to meet Tom Bradley, Susan's lawyer friend. The scent of aged paper calmed me as I slid into a booth. Tom already waiting with a notepad. I showed him the video files, the petition photos from Daniel's house, and Sophie's letter. "This is fraud," he said, his voice firm. "They're building a case to control your assets and reputation. We can counter this legally." I nodded, my resolve not just firm but surgical. "I want them exposed," I said. Not just stopped. Tom outlined a plan: file a fraud claim, use the video as evidence, and secure my rental house. "We'll need more," he added. "Something public to shift the narrative." I thought of the theater board email I'd sent, planting seeds for my costume designs to be recognized. But I needed a bolder move. I opened my phone and checked the Cozy app, locked since I'd changed the password after Daniel's edits. A new notification caught my Aja calendar invite for a family legacy dinner, still excluding me. I smirked, an idea forming. I'd crash their dinner, not as a guest, but as a reckoning. That evening, I sat at my farmhouse kitchen table, the program open before me. I'd always seen myself in Sophie's smile, her pride in my work. Now, Emily's betrayal cut deeper than Daniel's schemes. But I wasn't mourning, I was calculating. I texted Clara, "Need your help to crash their dinner. Bring your theater contacts." Clara's reply was instant: "I'm in. Let's make them choke on their lies." Her support sharpened my focus. I wasn't fighting for love anymore, I was fighting for justice. The next morning I visited the town's archive room, a dusty corner of the community center filled with old records. I'd once donated costume sketches there, a nod to my theater days. Using their computer, I searched for family records, finding a digital copy of my husband's will, naming me executor of the family fund. Daniel had overridden it with unauthorized PayPal transfers, as I'd seen. I printed the will, adding it to my growing file petition letter. Video, now this. Each piece was a thread, weaving their downfall. I met Susan at her porch, the autumn sun low, casting long shadows. She reviewed the will, her auditor's mind racing. "This proves Daniel's stealing from you," she said. "Combined with the video, it's a slam dunk." I leaned forward, my voice cold. "I don't just want to win, I want them to feel it." Susan nodded, handing me a USB drive with my evidence backed up. "Tom's drafting the claim. Get ready for Thanksgiving, it's your stage." As I drove home, a memory flashed: Timely at 10, helping me pin fabric for a costume, her laughter bright. I'd thought she'd always be my ally. Now, her video stung worse than Daniel's petition or Lauren's stolen photos. But her call last night, her fear, lingered. Could she be swayed? Or was she playing me? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on my plan: infiltrate the legacy dinner, expose their lies, protect my house. I opened my purse, the envelope and program inside. They weren't just keepsakes, they were my weapons. That night, I sat on my porch, the air heavy with the scent of fallen leaves. I checked my email, finding a reply from the theater board. We'd love to discuss your designs for the exhibit. A spark of triumph flared, but I tamped it down. I wasn't celebrating, yet I was building. I texted Sophie, testing her loyalty. Do you know about the legacy dinner? Her reply was slow. Dad said it's for family unity. I didn't know you weren't invited. My jaw tightened. Sophie wasn't complicit, but she was in the dark. I could use that. As I stood to go inside, my phone buzzed a video call from Daniel. I answered, my face neutral. His smile was forced, his eyes darting. Mom, we're worried about you. The house, the stress, it's too much. Let us help. My blood surged, but I kept my voice smooth. We'll talk at Thanksgiving. I hung up, his words echoing Lauren's text about my house being a burden. But the real threat came in a follow-up email, buried in my spam folder. A bank notice requesting a meeting to review my financial capacity. My heart pounded. They were moving to lock me out, and fast. The glow of my phone screen lit up the darkened corner of the town's bakery, where I sat tucked behind a display of sourdough loaves, scrolling through Nextdoor. The app, which Susan had shown me to stay connected with neighbors, buzzed with a new post that stopped my heart. Time to modernize our town's traditions. It read, posted anonymously but dripping with Lauren's polished tone. Let's move past outdated holiday hosts and embrace fresh leadership for Thanksgiving. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. This wasn't just Daniel and Emily erasing my photos or hiding Sophie's letter. This was a public campaign to erase my legacy from the town itself. I tapped the post, my fingers trembling but precise. The comments piled up, neighbors agreeing, some reminiscing about simpler times but praising the new energy. My chest burned, not with the raw anger of Daniel's cozy edit or the cold fury of Emily's video. This was deeper. A calculated humiliation, stripping me of my place in the community I'd helped shape. I'd hosted Thanksgivings that filled houses, sewn costumes that lit up the local theater, yet now I was outdated. Cast aside like an old script, I leaned back, the bakery's warm yeast scent clashing with the chill settling in my bones. Emily's call about the bank letter, Daniel's video call claiming my house was a burden, and now this. They were tightening the noose. But I wasn't dangling yet. I screenshotted the post and sent it to Susan and Clara. My message, sharp, Lauren's gone public. We hit back harder. Susan replied instantly, meet me at the community garden. We'll plan with Tom. Clara added, I've got theater friends ready to push back. Name the time. I left the bakery, driving to the community garden, a patchwork of raised beds and trellises glowing under string lights. Susan waited by a bench, her laptop open, Tom Bradley beside her. I showed them the Nextdoor post, my voice steady, not wavering. They're turning the town against me, I said. Tom's eyes narrowed. This is defamation, Ellen. Combined with the petition and video, we can build a case. Susan tapped her screen, pulling up Nextdoor's user logs. Clara's grandson traced the post's IP. It's Lauren's home network. My lips curved, not in a smile but a grim resolve. I wasn't just defending now, I was ready to expose. Tom outlined next steps, a cease and desist letter to Daniel and Lauren, citing the petition and video as fraud. But we need public leverage, he said, something to flip the town's perception. I nodded, an idea sparking. The theater board's email had promised a meeting about my designs. I could use that stage to reclaim my name. But first, I needed to confirm Lauren's role in the post. I opened my phone and created a burner Nextdoor account, posting a reply. Who's this outdated host? Sounds like someone's rewriting history. Within minutes, a private message pinged from an anonymous user. Mind your business. The old ways are done. Lauren's cadence was unmistakable. I drove to Clara's house that evening, her front porch lined with potted mums. She handed me a printed email from the theater board, confirming they'd received my program and wanted to feature my costumes in an exhibit. Daniel tried to block this last year, Clara said, her voice fierce. Said your work was irrelevant. My friends on the board ignored him. My jaw tightened. This wasn't just about my house or Sophie's letter, it was about erasing my mark on this town. I tucked the email into my purse, next to the trust documents and program. They'll regret that, I said, my tone not bitter, but razor-sharp. Clara suggested a bold move. Attend the legacy dinner uninvited. Confront Lauren with the Nextdoor post. and rally the theater board's support. I agreed, my mind already mapping the event. I'd walk in, not as the frail grandmother they mocked, but as the woman who'd built their family's heart. I texted Sophie, probing carefully, excited for the legacy dinner. Her reply was hesitant. "It's Mom's thing. I wish you were coming." My heart twinged, but I pushed it aside. Sophie wasn't the enemy, she was a pawn. Like Emily, I could use their innocence to unravel Daniel's lies. The next morning, I visited the town hall, a stone building with arched windows, to check public records. Susan had suggested digging into Lauren's event planning expenses tied to my PayPal transfers. Using a clerk's computer, I found a permit for the legacy dinner, filed under Lauren's name, listing a community gala budget funded by family contributions. My contributions, siphoned without consent. I printed the permit, adding it to my file petition letter. Video, will, now this. Each piece tightened the web I was weaving. At home, I sat at my sewing table. The email from the theater board opened. A memory flashed: neighbors cheering at a 4th of July picnic I'd hosted, thanking me for uniting the town. Now, Lauren was turning them against me. But as I folded the email, my resolve wasn't shaken. It was electric. I wasn't fighting for applause anymore. I was fighting to reclaim my truth. I texted Tom, "Draft the letter. I'm crashing their dinner." His reply was swift, "Done. You're calling their bluff." That afternoon, I met Susan at a local diner, its jukebox humming softly. She handed me a USB with all my evidence, plus a recording of Craig's voicemail from part 3, warning me to stop poking around. "This strengthens our case," she said. "Lauren's post is the public face of their scheme." I nodded, slipping the USB into my purse. "I'll use it at the dinner," I said, my voice not pleading but commanding. "They'll see who's outdated." As I drove home, I checked Nextdoor again. The post had more comments, neighbors planning to attend Lauren's new Thanksgiving, but one stood out, from a user named Concerned Local. "Why erase the woman who made our holidays magical?" My breath caught. Someone saw through the lies. I messaged them anonymously. "Who's behind this?" No reply came, but the seed was planted. The town wasn't fully swayed. That night, I stood on my farmhouse porch, the autumn air sharp with pine. I opened my purse, the envelope and program joined by the permit and email. They weren't just papers, they were my ammunition. I whispered. "They tried to erase me, but I'll write the final act." Thanksgiving was days away, and the legacy dinner would be my stage. I'd walk in, expose Lauren's post, and demand answers, but as I turned to go inside, my phone lit up a text from an unknown number. "Ellen, back off, or we'll make sure the bank meeting goes our way." My pulse surged. They were watching me. Closer than I thought. Jessica Lane's wineglass clinked against a neighbor's as she leaned across a picnic table at the town's harvest barbecue, her voice carrying over the crackle of a bonfire. "Lauren's gala will redefine our traditions," she gushed, her earrings glinting in the firelight. Daniel even told the theater board to skip Elon's old costumes for something fresh. I stood a few feet away, blending into the crowd, my hands wrapped around a paper plate of cornbread. The anonymous text from last night, "Back off, or we'll make sure the bank meeting goes our way," still burned in my mind, but Jessica's careless words lit a new fire. I wasn't just exposing lies anymore, I was rallying a rebellion. I slipped behind a row of hay bales, the smoky air masking my quick breaths, and texted Clara Evans, "Jessica just spilled. Daniel blocked my theater Anna, meet me at your book club." Clara's reply was instant. "Bring the evidence. We're ready." I'd already shared the Nextdoor post, Sophie's letter, and Emily's video with Susan and Tom, but Jessica's slip was a new thread to pull. My resolve wasn't electric, now it was molten. A quiet fury honed into a weapon. I'd sewn costumes that dazzled audiences. I'd weave their betrayal into their undoing. I drove to Clara's book club, held in her backyard gazebo, a wooden structure draped with fairy lights. The group 5 women, all retirees with sharp minds, greeted me with nods, their novels set aside. Clara stood, her nurses poised steady. "Tell them, Ellen." I laid out the evidence on the picnic table, the petition to declare me incapacitated, Sophie's hidden letter, Emily's video erasing me, the Nextdoor post smearing my traditions. Jessica's words at the barbecue were the latest blow. "Daniel's trying to erase my work," I said, my voice not shaking but commanding. "He told the theater my designs are irrelevant." The women gasped, their faces hardening. Clara's friend, Martha, a former librarian, slammed her hand on the table. "You made our theater shine, Ellen. This is outrageous." I handed them a printed theater board email, confirming their interest in my designs despite Daniel's interference. "They want my costumes for an exhibit," I said. "I'm going to the legacy dinner to expose them." Clara grinned. "We'll spread the word. The town needs to know who you are." I left the book club, my purse heavy with the envelope, my trust documents joined by the theater email, and a new item, a barbecue flyer I'd grabbed, listing Lauren as the community host. I'd noticed my name absent from the sponsors, despite funding half the event years ago. At home, I opened my laptop and checked my email, finding a message from Tom Bradley, cease and desist, drafted, ready to serve at the dinner. I replied, "Add Jessica's statement. It's defamation." My fingers moved with precision, no longer trembling. I wasn't pleading for justice, I was orchestrating it. The next morning, I met Susan at the town's farmers market, a bustling square of stalls selling apples and handmade soaps. She handed me a flash drive with a new recording, Daniel's voice, captured by Clara's grandson at a local bar, bragging about taking control of my assets. "He's reckless," Susan said, her auditor's eyes gleaming. "This is gold for Tom's case." I nodded, slipping the drive into my purse. "I'm not just stopping them," I said, my tone I'm making them regret it. Susan smirked. "Crash that dinner, Ellen. Show them who's boss." I walked through the market, pausing at a stall selling vintage postcards. One caught my eye, a faded image of the town theater, my costumes, on stage. I bought it, tucking it into my purse as a reminder of my legacy. Not Daniel's. A memory flashed, neighbors applauding my designs at a gala, calling me the heart of the town. Now, Jessica's words confirmed Daniel's campaign to erase that, but as I gripped the postcard, my heart didn't ache, it surged with purpose. I was done being invisible. That afternoon, I visited the theater, a brick building with a marquee glowing softly. The director, an old friend named Linda, welcomed me into her office. I showed her the barbecue flyer and Jessica's statement, recorded by Clara's grandson. "Daniel pressured us to exclude you," Linda admitted, her voice low. "He said your work was dated, that Lauren's vision was the future." My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm bringing my designs to the exhibit," I said, "and I'm exposing them at the legacy dinner." Linda nodded. "Well, back you, Ellen. Your costumes are our history." I left the theater, my plan crystallizing: crash the dinner, present the recording, and rally the town's support. I texted Sophie, testing her again. "Know anything about the theater exhibit?" Her reply was slow. "Mom said they're focusing on new artists. I didn't know about you." My grip tightened. Sophie was still in the dark, but her innocence could be my leverage. I replied, "Ask your dad why my designs are dated." I wasn't just fighting now, I was sowing discord. That evening, I sat at my farmhouse dining table, the postcard before me. I opened Nextdoor, finding more comments on Lauren's post, some questioning the outdated host. I posted anonymously, "Who's erasing our town's traditions? Ask the real host." The replies flooded in, neighbors debating, some defending me. The town was splitting, and I was the wedge. I emailed Tom, attaching the recording and flyer. "Used this at the dinner. They're done." His reply was swift. "You're a force, Ellen. We're ready." As I stood, my phone buzzed. A call from Lauren. I answered, my voice calm. "Ellen, we're worried about your health," she said, her tone syrupy. "The bank meeting's tomorrow. Let us handle your finances." I laughed, sharp and deliberate. "We'll talk at the dinner," I said, hanging up. Her call wasn't concern, it was a threat, tied to the bank notice I'd found. But as I checked my email, a new message stopped me cold. An invitation to the legacy dinner, sent by mistake, with a note from Daniel, confirmed Mom's absence. "She can't know." My blood surged. They'd slipped, and I was ready to pounce. Daniel's voice boomed through the community center's meeting room, his polished shoes clicking on the hardwood as he addressed the small crowd of neighbors. "Our family's ready to lead this town forward," he declared, gesturing to a projector screen, flashing images of Lauren's modern Thanksgivings. "Mom's ideas are outdated, stuck in the past." I stood at the back, unnoticed, my hands gripping a folded newspaper from the event. My name absent from its list of contributors despite funding the center's holiday decorations for years. The mistaken invitation to the legacy dinner still burned in my pocket. But Daniel's public dismissal cut deeper than any text or post. I slipped out to the hallway, the murmur of applause fading behind me, and leaned against a wall, my breath steady but my mind alight. Jessica's revelation at the barbecue, Daniel blocking my theater honor, had fueled my resolve. But this was raw, unfiltered contempt. I wasn't just a sidelined mother anymore. I was a force, poised to dismantle their lies with surgical precision. My purse held the envelope, my trust documents, along with the theater email, barbecue flyer, and Daniel's recorded bar boast. Now, I needed to confront him. Not with tears, but with proof. I texted Clara and Susan. Daniel just called me outdated publicly. Meet me at the tavern tonight. Clara's reply was swift. Bring the recording. We'll plan the dinner crash. Susan added. Tom's ready with the legal papers. I nodded to myself, slipping the newspaper into my purse. It wasn't just a keepsake, it was evidence of their erasure. Another thread in the tapestry I was weaving. I drove to the town's tavern, a dimly lit spot with wooden booths and the hum of a jukebox, to regroup. The scent of fried onions grounded me as I sat, waiting for my allies. Clara arrived first, her nurse's calm replaced by a fierce glint. Daniel's digging his own grave, she said, sliding into the booth. Susan followed, laptop in hand, and played the recording of Daniel's bar rant. Mom's too old to matter. We're taking control. My jaw tightened, but my voice was steel. He said it to my face now. I said, I'm crashing the legacy dinner with this. Clara grinned. The theater board's on board. They'll back your exhibit if you expose him. Susan handed me a printed bank statement, showing another $1,200 transferred to Craig Thompson, labeled estate planning. They're rushing to lock you out, she warned. I leaned forward, my fingers tracing the newspaper's edge. Tom's cease and desist is ready, I said. I'll serve it at the dinner, with the recording. Susan nodded. Post it on Nextdoor too, anonymously. Let the town hear Daniel's voice. I opened my burner account, uploading a clip of the recording with a caption. Who's calling our traditions outdated? The post went live, and within minutes, neighbors commented, some shocked, others defensive. The town was fracturing, and I was the spark. The next morning, I visited the town's library, its quiet stacks, a refuge from the storm I was brewing. Using a public computer, I accessed my bank account, confirming the unauthorized transfers to Craig. But a new email caught my eye from the bank, scheduling a capacity review tomorrow, citing concerns from Daniel. My pulse surged, but I forwarded it to Tom, my message curt. They're moving fast. Finalize the claim, he replied. Done. Serve it at the dinner. They won't see it coming. I printed the email, adding it to my purse. Each piece, letter, video, will, flyer, recording. Now this was a weapon, honed for battle. That afternoon, I met Emily at a park bench near the town square, its fountain bubbling softly. Her call about the bank letter had hinted at remorse, but I needed to test her. Why'd you let Daniel say I'm outdated? I asked, my tone not accusing but probing. She fidgeted, her eyes down. He said it's for the family's future. Mom, I didn't agree, but he's intense. Her words wavered, but I saw fear, not loyalty. You edited me out of that video, I said, my voice low. Fix it, or you're complicit. She nodded, tears brimming. I'll try. I didn't trust her fully, but her guilt was leverage. I drove to the theater, its lobby lined with posters of past shows I'd stressed. Linda, the director, met me, her face grim. Daniel called again, pressuring us to drop your exhibit, she said. He claims you're not well. I handed her the bank email and recording transcript. This is who he is, I said. I'm bringing this to the dinner. Linda's eyes hardened. We'll have a projector ready. Show the town. I nodded, my resolve not just molten but incandescent. I wasn't reclaiming my legacy, I was weaponizing it. That evening, I sat at my farmhouse kitchen table, the newspaper spread before me. A memory flickered. Daniel as a boy, watching me sew, promising to make me proud. Now, he'd called me outdated to a crowd. The betrayal didn't stinge, fueled me. I opened my laptop, drafting a speech for the dinner, weaving in Daniel's words, the recording, the bank's threat. I'd walk in, uninvited, and lay their lies bare. I texted Sophie, your dad's hiding my work. Ask him why. Her reply was quick. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'll talk to him. Her innocence was my edge, but I wouldn't bank on it. As I stood, my phone buzzed a video message from Daniel. I played it, his face smug. Mom, the bank meeting's set. We're protecting you from yourself. Stay out of it. My blood boiled, but I saved the message, forwarding it to Tom. This wasn't a warning, it was his arrogance, a final mistake. I whispered, you think I'm done, but I'm just starting. The legacy dinner was tomorrow. And I'd arrived not as a guest but as a storm. But as I turned off the light, my phone lit up again, a notification from next door. My anonymous post with Daniel's recording was trending, with dozens of comments. Is this Daniel Harper? Ellen's the heart of this town. But one comment stopped me cold, from an account named Legacy Leader. Ellen's confused, not betrayed. We're saving her legacy. My heart raced. It was Lauren, doubling down, and the town was listening. The dinner wasn't just a confrontation now, it was a battle for the town's soul. Craig Thompson's truck rumbled into my farmhouse driveway, dust swirling under the late afternoon sun. He stepped out, a USB drive dangling from his fingers, his usual cocky grin replaced by a nervous twitch. Ellen, you need to see this, he said, handing me the drive. Daniel's gone too far. I took it, my fingers steady, my eyes locked on his. The anonymous text, threatening me before the legacy dinner, still echoed. But Craig's defection was the opening I'd waited for. I wasn't just a scorned grandmother anymore, I was a conductor, orchestrating the collapse of their lies with the precision of a seamstress threading a needle. Inside, I plugged the USB into my laptop, Clara and Susan crowding around the kitchen table. The screen lit up with a Google Photos video. Daniel, in his office, speaking to Lauren. Mom's legacy ends with us. We'll sell her house, fund our future. The timestamp matched the night I'd found the bank email. My pulse quickened, not with shock, but with triumph. This wasn't just evidence, it was a confession, tying their scheme to my stolen memories, Sophie's letter, and the theater's snub. I forwarded it to Tom Bradley, my message sharp. This seals it. Serve the papers tonight. Clara's eyes gleamed. You're crashing that dinner, Ellen. Show them. Susan nodded, handing me a printed flyer for the theater exhibit, now confirmed to feature my costumes. The town's buzzing after your next-door post, she said. They're questioning Daniel. I slipped the flyer into my purse, alongside the envelope my trust documents and the newspaper from the community center. A new item joined them, a ticket stub from the theater's first gala I'd designed for, a symbol of my reclaimed stage. I touched it briefly, my resolve not fiery but crystalline, unyielding. I drove to Daniel's suburban home, the legacy dinner's lights spilling onto the lawn. The scent of roasted turkey hit me as I slipped through the side door. Uninvited but unnoticed, my black dress blending with the shadows. The dining room buzzed with neighbors, Lauren at the head, her smile practiced as she toasted new traditions. Daniel stood beside her, Sophie and Emily at the table, their faces tense. I waited, my phone connected to the theater's projector, set up by Linda earlier. Tom stood nearby, legal papers in hand, his nod signaling readiness. As Lauren raised her glass, I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the chatter. Before you toast, watch this. I hit play, and Daniel's video filled the screen, his words damning. Mom's legacy ends with us. Gasps rippled through the room. Lauren's glass trembled. Daniel's face paled. I held up the theater flyer. You hid my work, my love, my life, I said, my tone not pleading but commanding. This town deserves the truth. Neighbors murmured, some nodding, others glaring at Daniel. Sophie's eyes welled, but Emily looked away. Her guilt plain. Tom stepped forward, serving the cease and desist papers. Fraud, defamation, theft. He listed, his voice steady. Ellen's filing claims against you, Daniel, Lauren, and Craig. Craig, in the corner, shrank, his betrayal of Daniel now public. I turned to the crowd, holding up Sophie's stage dress, retrieved from Craig's earlier that day. This is my legacy, I said, handing it to Linda. It belongs to the theater, not your lies. The room erupted in applause, neighbors standing, some shouting support. Lauren stammered, Ellen, you're confused. But the crowd drowned her out. I left the dinner, my purse lighter without the dress but heavy with victory. At the theater, I met Linda, who displayed the dress in the lobby. A plaque reading, Ellen Harper's Timeless Designs. I posted a photo on Nextdoor, captioned, The truth shines brighter than lies. Comments flooded in, neighbors praising my work, demanding apologies from Daniel. My legacy was restored, but my family was fractured. Sophie texted, "I'm so sorry, Grandma." I didn't reply. I wasn't grieving, I was free. The next morning, I sat at my farmhouse porch, the ticket stub in hand. I'd uncovered Daniel's cozy edits, Lauren's next door smear, Emily's video, the petition, Sophie's letter, and now this video. Each step had stripped away their lies, but also my illusions of family. I wasn't bitter. I was clear-eyed, a woman who'd sown her own redemption. The bank meeting was cancelled, my house secured, my designs celebrated. But as I stood, my phone buzzed a text from Emily. "Mom, I'm leaving Daniel's side. Can we meet?" My heart paused. Was this redemption, or another trap? I sit on my porch, the autumn air cool, the town quiet beyond the fields. This journey began with a cozy notification, a sting of betrayal, as Daniel erased me from Thanksgiving. It grew with each discovery: stolen photos, a hidden letter, a video, a petition, a public smear. I fought not with tears but with evidence, allies, and a will sharper than my old sewing shears. The truth I've learned isn't warm or forgiving. Family can betray you faster than strangers, not because they hate you, but because they need you to be small to feel big. I was their foundation, funding their dreams, stitching their memories, but foundations are often ignored until they crack. For those of you sidelined in your own families, know this: your worth isn't in their approval. It's in the truth you build, the legacy you claim, even when it costs you love. Don't wait for their apologies. Take back your story, piece by piece, as I did. To every woman or man who's been called too old or outdated, you're not done. You're just beginning. Stand tall, gather your proof, and let the world see you. If my fight moved you, subscribe to this channel. Let's keep telling stories that matter. They buried my past, but I built my future.